Well, the biggest story going on in the country, at least in my opinion, has been the potential for a railway strike. Fox News has been focused on the border crisis. Apparently, Kayleigh McEnany said this is like a really bad SNL skit. Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott, the governors for Texas and Florida, respectively, they sent busfuls of migrants to different parts of the country, including the vice presidential residence. Joffrey Free.
Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris herself. 2 busloads of migrants just pulled up right near her D.C. residence at the Naval Observatory today. They came courtesy of Texas Governor Abbott days after Border Czar Harris called our southern border, quote, secure. Meanwhile, another Republican governor, Florida's Ron DeSantis, taking similar action, sending 2 plane loads of illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, you know, that ritzy vacation hotspot for wealthy liberals, including the Obamas and Oprah Winfrey. Democrats and the liberal media have been blasting these moves, vilifying the governors as inhumane and racist, and even comparing it to the Nazis. Watch.
Governor Abbott's racist and xenophobic practices of expulsion have only amplified the challenges many of these migrants have experienced on their.
Well, since we brought it up, do you want to go ahead and do the history? But like she went ahead and addressed the criticism I was going to come at her with. So let's go ahead. Let's hear like what the actual history is and decide for ourselves, can't we? Ron DeSantis' new flew immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, echoing a racist stunt from exactly 60 years ago. In 1962, it was just a bunch of racists. This time, the inhumanity comes at the hands of the state. Yesterday, close to 50 undocumented immigrants arrived on the tiny island of Martha's Vineyard. When they landed at the airport, they had a brochure for the Martha's Vineyard Community Center, so they walked the 2 miles to get there, having had nearly no food or water all day, according to the Cape Cod Times. 2 planes left from Texas, but many of the immigrants were originally from Venezuela. It didn't take long for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to take credit. Yes, Florida can confirm the 2 planes with illegal immigrants that arrived in Martha's Vineyard today were part of the state's relocation program to transport illegal immigrants to sanctuary destinations. The governor's communications director, Taryn Finsky, told FoxNews.com. She went on to say it was done in response to the Biden administration's open borders policy. Fox News ran the story under a banner on its homepage, exclusive. DeSantis flying illegal immigrants to swanky hideaway for the rich and famous. But it was 60 years ago when this corner of Massachusetts was the center of a similarly cruel stunt. It is a little told chapter of history called in the media at the time the Reverse Freedom Rides. In the summer of 1962, a group of white segregationists and supremacists known as the White Citizens Council passed out leaflets and placed wanted ads in the southern newspapers to recruit black families with the promise of jobs up north, and in particular in Hyannis, where then President John F. Kennedy spent summers with his family. The ad reads, President Kennedy's brother assures you a grand reception to Massachusetts. Good jobs, housing, etc. are promised. The deceptive and inhumane plan was a response to the heroic freedom rides the year before. Civil rights activists rode buses into the segregated South, and a year later, the White Citizens Council sent busloads of black riders up to the North. For many years, certain politicians, educators, and certain religious leaders have used the white people of the South as a whipping boy, to put it mildly, to further their own ends and their political campaigns, says Amos Guthridge, one of the White Citizens Council organizers, in footage unearthed by NPR's Gabriel Emanuel in 2020. We're going to find out if people like Ted Kennedy and the Kennedys, all of them, really do have an interest in the black people and really do have a love for the black people. Any of the 53 people who arrived at Hyannis, including 33 children, were sent to the Cape Cod Community College, where they were given food and bedding collected by the Cape Cod chapter of the NAACP. It's one of the most inhumane things I've seen in my years of social action, a local Cape activist, Margaret Mosley, said in 1994. Sharpie Diesel, good evening. I love your face. Thank you for being here. So that's the actual backstory of what happened. Esquire goes on. You guys can read that for yourselves. Let's go back to Fox News. Who's going to try to shake off those accusations by just saying, nuh-uh.
Journey to find a safe place.
I mean, the conservative estimate is about $80,000 per bus trip. But we know that, racists don't mind paying this money. So racists, are willing to pay the money, and they don't care if taxpayers pay the brunt.
We woke up to the news this morning that Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida sent 2 plane loads of migrants to Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, including kids and whatnot. And I'm not saying this is not a one-for-one. This is not a parallel here.
Avenging pineapple.
But it does address
I
some
don't know
of the
about
same
decreased
themes
sex drive, maybe
that are part of this
baldness.
documentary.
There might be some correlation. I don't know.
Some of the same themes, Tammy.
Mandy, good evening.
Racist and humane in Martha's Vineyard, but not at the southern border? How did they get off with this?
Yeah, it's of course shock value, mentioning that, moving people into that dynamic to confuse them. The fact of the matter is, it is this rhetoric about sanctuary cities that provides an incentive around the world. The word sanctuary, it's powerful. These individuals from all over the world, not just South and Central America, but certainly there, have spent weeks, if not months, in dangerous, unknown, crazy, dynamics where children are abused, where there's sex trafficking, where we've just seen a story where we have found traffickers transporting people in suitcases and in water barrels. And these people who created this incentive and who've made it possible to make money.
Wait a minute. I think she's talking about the story out of South Korea. Because we're going to talk about that one later, just because that's a wild fucking story. But what does that have to do with the border? Is she just trying to connect it to another story that's current? Soulless death and despair. Good evening. Thank you for being a freaking follower. I love your face. Please do not fall into a soulless pit of death and despair. I know it's a weird dichotomy over here, me sitting here with a ghost shirt looking kind of metal, and yet I have the rainbow graphics with the troll head and then the big smiley face. It's all a contradiction. But good evening.
Like this on the backs of human beings, the littering of the human bodies that we don't see along this trail from the Middle East, from Asia, from South and Central America, creating this dynamic where people want to go take that first step, pay all their money to get here, and then suddenly the first time they have actual secure transportation to a city or to an environment that portrays itself as this is the place to come, this is where you will be safe. And now they complain and are condemned, and it's considered an assault on these cities. What this has revealed is the lie of what Democrats have said, the danger that rhetoric has placed people in. And then when people make it to this point, they condemn the governors for trying to help facilitate some level of safety. And of course, it shows you that they've never intended there to be sanctuary from the first point. It's always been about disrupting the border.
What?
Republican.
Right wingers just make up shit. I want to point out that, the migrants have been welcomed. Go over here to mine. Let me find my bookmarks. Why they don't show up over here.
GOP states at the expense of the lives of children, of women who remain enslaved in this country, in part due to having to pay back the money they've.
I want to point out what happened when the migrants went into these communities that right-wingers sent them to. Migrants and local high school AP Spanish students who have been dismissed from school to help interpret play a ball game in the parish house parking lot to pass the time. They took them in, sent the AP Spanish students to make sure that they knew they were welcome. And the right wingers want to act like, they're gonna be horrified when they get the migrants in their communities. No, they treated them like people. Who would have thunk it?
They've taken to get here with some kind of work.
They got to work it off.
So it exposes the lie and what it's done to human lives. It's shameful.
Yeah, and
I just exposed your lie, ma'am.
You're pointing out that condescension of the left, where they say, well, look, 50 people is fine, says the mayor of Martha's Vineyard. We gave them beds and we gave them health care, he said, right? Patting himself on the back for 50. But the overflowing thousands, that's ignored. The vile conditions currently in El Paso, which you've covered extensively on your show, the smell of human waste littering the streets because there is no space for anyone, that's ignored. It's the cruel.
So they sent migrants to Martha's Vineyard, and everybody in Martha's Vineyard welcomed them and treated them humanely. And Fox News is pissed off about that. Make it make sense.
Cruelty of compassion and the joke, the mockery that these Dems make of their own little villages. Because 50 is okay, but 4,000 isn't.
The cruelty
a public
of compassion,
like Mayor Bowser did.
Well, the Democrat mayor of El Paso then put people on buses.
There you go.
Because that was the reality that he no longer wanted to live with. He had to tell his constituents eye to eye, I'm doing something about this. Washington, D.C. doesn't have to do that because they can't see us, and they keep proving that over and over again. And I guess those people don't eat eggs. Because the price of eggs is ridiculous right now, up 38% and going higher. And I only bring that in because as Americans...
Are eggs really expensive right now? I had no idea. A real Charlie's Angel. The homeless advocates in Martha's Vineyard stated the migrants must leave. I have no evidence of that.
Americans are struggling to put food on the table. These are people who are going to need to eat too. And they'll be eating up our tax dollars. And look, we have the heart to take care of them. We will always be America, filled with Americans. But these places, as Will Kane told me last hour, these places, these sanctuary cities and states, put out the invitation of come here. And Tammy is so right. They lied when they did it.
That's right.
And you know what? Now they have to prove to us that they weren't lying.
That's right.
They lied. They got to prove to us they weren't lying. Though they... None of this makes sense.
Got to take all these people in and not only just feed them, but make their lives better than when they got to the border. They got to prove that they're better than Republicans at what they're doing. But you know what they're doing? Muriel Bowser, mayor of D.C., begging for federal help. I need National Guard. I need money. I need all of this. Meanwhile, as you just said, Emily, hundreds of thousands have been taken in at the border that we know of. Close to 2 million by the end of the first fiscal year in Biden's presidency. Wow.
Biden's America. And I'll ask you that same question, Kaylee, because I can't wrap my head around it. Why is it vile and inhumane for these border mayors and border governors to help spread out, to try to account for the resources being diluted on their end? It's vile and humane for them to spread that love. But it's not vile and humane to have the porous southern border be open like an absolute tidal wave that subjects all of these migrants.
They just say that. They just say that without any evidence. It's so annoying.
migrants to these filthy, horrible, vile conditions.
Yeah, you asked the million-dollar question. Why is it evil and inhumane for Governor DeSantis to send migrants to Martha's Vineyard, but not evil and humane when Biden for 2 years sends secret flights of migrants around the nation? There's no difference there. Really
Of
interesting.
minors.
Yeah, of minors,
Those are
exactly.
children.
What an interesting piece of footage came out. Griff Jenkins brilliantly goes in front of the vice president's residence at the Naval Observatory. He asks an illegal immigrant, hey, is the border secure? The vice president right there, over the fence in the Naval Observatory says it's secure. His quote is astonishing. The illegal immigrant says it's open, not closed. Everyone believes the border is open because we are free to enter, no problem. We came illegally. We did not come legally. So, I mean, this
Wait. Did you just send somebody down there and like pay him $20 to get somebody to say that? Fucking Fox News. Just make shit up. Now, I showed you how this is echoes of a racist tactic from 60 years ago. Not only is it a racist tactic, it may be illegal. I wish these motherfuckers could feel embarrassment. Ron DeSantis flying migrants to Martha's Vineyard may have violated federal law. The Florida governor's anti-immigrant PR stunt was needlessly cruel. It may have also been illegal, especially if reports that migrants were misled are true. Oh, shit. I didn't know. I didn't have the full story, but my fucking Microsoft keeps fucking with my ad blockers and supposed to let me read this stuff, and it's starting to get really annoying. Migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis claimed they were lured into boarding the flight with deceptive promises that they'd be taken to Boston for work opportunities and expedited papers, something experts say could constitute a violation of federal law. Approximately 50 Venezuelan and Colombian migrants landed in Martha's Vineyard Airport on Wednesday afternoon and were left to find their way into the town with little to no information about where they were or where to go for resources. State Representative Dylan Fernandez told the Vineyard Gazette that some of the migrants were told they would be receiving housing and jobs immediately upon arrival. It sounds exactly like the White People's Council, what they did 60 years ago. God damn it. Yet the island was not notified of the transport before it landed. DeSantis used Florida taxpayer money to pay for the flights, but they originated in Texas. Migrants interviewed by NPR reported being approached in San Antonio by a woman named Perla, who offered them transportation to Boston. It is unclear if Perla was affiliated with either the Texas or Florida governments. The flights they were put on made brief layovers in Florida and North Carolina before landing in Martha's Vineyard, where someone on the tarmac filmed exclusive footage for Fox News. Well, we're not going to allow ads, so we're not going to see it. Transporting migrants away from the border is legally dubious, and during the Trump administration, ICE officials rejected a similar scheme proposed by White House advisor Stephen Miller due to liability concerns. The Martha's Vineyard stunt could be especially problematic considering the reports that the migrants were duped about where they were being taken. These people are reprehensible. And a lot of them probably consider themselves Christian. If only they believed in a book told them how to treat migrants when they're in their country. Oh, yeah. If only. Vampire Hunter D. Thank you for being a freaking follower. You already were, but welcome back.